one of the things that's happened in society over and over again, and you see it much more in earlier cultures, earlier civilizations, is intolerance develops in urban societies. There's a reason for this, but this intolerance means that people become more and more unpleasant to the unusual. So if somebody has an unusual personal life, they tend to be shunned by society, and society likes convention. And that has led to all kinds of terrible suppressions in the past. Witchcraft, witch hunting, which was popular at one stage, was based on attacking unusual women that were thought to be witches, simply because they were slightly eccentric or slightly different. And I've always said that one of the most healthy societies is one where we accept eccentricities, we accept unusual social patterns, and we actually relish the variety that this gives to society. And I have a lifelong dislike of strict conventions. That, of course, has suited my surrealist personality as well, because you've got to remember the surrealists began because they were horrified by the slaughter of World War I. That's what they said: society is rotten. We are going to be against society, and we are going to any traditional form of art, we will reject it. And so their whole philosophy was based on a disgust at slaughter in the trenches of World War I. And of course, for me, as a child growing up in World War II, I was responding without realizing in the same way to World War II. Because when I was a teenager, I knew that when I grew up, I'd be expected to kill people. That's what you did, in World War. I was already put into uniform as a little boy, and all being trained up to when I grew up to go around killing people. Well, and I thought the human species has gone mad. And in one school essay, which my mother kept, I described human beings as monkeys with diseased brains. Now, if that sounds horrible, you've got to remember that I was being bombed at the time, and if you're a teenager, one of the pastimes was to go to the town hall and read the lists of unclaimed body parts from the bombing of the night before. It was a very horrible time. I mean, we think we're in a horrible time now with the COVID virus, but when you're being bombed, it's it's just as bad. And I've just been looking at an old photograph, which I have, of something called a bomb god, because I found an unexploded incendiary bomb, and as a child I kept it in my bedroom and painted it to look like a sort of a human being, and I called it my bomb god because it fell from heaven, which is where gods are, of course.
So wait a minute. You are telling me that you had in your childhood bedroom an unexploded bomb that you had painted up, and it's just sitting in there.
Yeah, well, it was a small incendiary bomb. It wasn't a big bomb. It was the incendiary bombs, the ones that cause fires, were quite small. And I painted it and turned it into an art object, which, I've just got a new book coming out. This is only the proofs, but you can see it here. Whoops, I've got to get it on the screen. Is that? I can't.
Pull it back a little. Yeah.
There we go. And there it is. And that's the incendiary bomb, which I added a face to, and the fin of the bomb is become the hat.
So what are your thoughts on what's original anymore? Where are we getting it?
One of the challenges of the artist is always to come up with a new image when he's painting, and not to repeat what he did last week, but the extraordinary thing about the human brain is it has a very high level of curiosity. It's really what makes us as a species, because we're always asking questions. And when we ask a question, it leads, the answer leads to another question. And this is why in a matter of a few thousand years, we have gone from mud huts to skyscrapers. And it's an extraordinary story, zoologic. If you look at us as an animal species, what we've achieved in the last 10,000 years is amazing. And it's all due to curiosity, to new ideas, new developments. When we built a tall building, we had to invent the elevator, and we didn't need an elevator before because we didn't have any tall buildings. And so each new development creates yet another one that has to go with it. And our society is like a sort of great pile of inventions, one on top of the other. It's hard for us today to remember that only 20 years ago, computers were about 30 feet long, and when Babbage was inventing the computer way back, they were gigantic constructions, huge things that would fill a whole laboratory. Now we have them this size and can hold it in our hand. The day that computers were invented started another whole new phase. That was novelty. Nobody had thought of it before. And today, every time some new gadget is developed, it changes our lives. And at the moment, one of the biggest changes in the last 20 years has been the computer, of course, and the internet. That has made what we're doing at this moment possible. This interview, which we're having, is only possible because of the invention of the computer. And it's because one of the funny things is that inventions always go beyond themselves, because if you stop to think about it, who uses a computer to compute? Nobody. We still call them computers, but when did you last compute on a computer? That's what they were built for originally, to do extremely complicated mathematical computations. But that's gone. Now it's a camera, it's a telephone, it's a typewriter, it's
a lifeline,
a library, a lifeline, a library. It's a dozen things, and all that is growing. And of course, it's going to go on. I'll tell you one interesting game you can play if you're worried about originality. Is try and imagine. It's very difficult, of course, because try and imagine the next big invention. Because you see, when I was young, there was no television. Radio had been invented, but there was no television. And then along came television, and I thought, oh, that's rather interesting. And now, and then it moved on to computers and so on. So these are all things that happened in my lifetime. So what's going to happen in the next 100 years? We're not going to stay still. We can't. We're not that kind of animal. We're a very restless, inventive animal, and we will find new challenges.